Good evening, students. Now we are going to discuss in this last session on installment purchase system. So in last session, so far in your entire unit 2, you people have studied about what do you mean by hire purchase system, theory, definition, meaning, and the accounting treatment. If at all any sale is going to happen on the basis of hire purchase system, how are we going to account it in the books of hire purchaser as well as in the books of hire vendor. The last aspect of your unit 2, there is one aspect called as installment purchase system. It is similar to hire purchase system. Under this system, what we are going to study is that what do you mean by installment system, then the meaning of installment system, the definition, the features of installment system, and the difference between hire purchase and installment system. What are the similarities and how the installment system is going to be different from hire purchase system. Only theory questions will be asked from examination point of view. You don't have problems under installment system. Okay. Now we'll move on to the session. So what do you mean by installment system? There is a concept called as buy now and pay later. You might have heard lot of like what people are giving you, making you an offers for credit sale. You just take pay 1 rupee and take the product like AC. Many advertisements you are already seeing. So you are exposed to this kind of thing. One such kind of things what you already know is only installment system. So in installment system what happens is that it is a credit sale. So immediately we are not going to make the payment. It is a credit sale in which the payments are going to be distributed over the period of time. Each and every installment what we pay is called as an installment. So in this system what happens is that the buyer, whoever is going to buy the goods on the basis of installment system, immediately two things he will get. What is the two things is that the possession of the goods, because physically he takes the goods like TV, washing machine, most of the durable goods are purchased by installment system only, car, etc. So the possession will come to the buyer as well as the ownership. This is where we are going to differ from hire purchase system. So two words, make a note of it. Possession will be transferred to the buyer as well as the ownership will be transferred to the buyer immediately after signing the agreement. So now you would have got some idea about installment system. So an installment system is a system where it is a credit sale in which the payments are going to be made in installments over a period of time. In this system, the buyer gets two things, two important words. What you have to keep it in your mind is that possession as well as the ownership will be immediately transferred to the buyer on the at the time of signing the agreement. So here installment system is just like a credit purchase or a credit sale. It's like a credit purchase and it is similar to the hire purchase system. So in what way it is different is that like hire purchase system, in installment system also there is an agreement between the buyer and seller. To what? For what? To purchase and sell the goods. The buyer makes certain down payment at the time of signing the agreement and the balance he will be spreading it over the various installments over the period of time. To simply put, it is called as buy now and pay later. A simple example. See, in this what is shown in the picture, a car. The installment sale is happening between a buyer and seller. Usually big cars and all 20 lakhs, 30 lakhs at one shot people will not be paying the entire amount and buying. So they will be going for installment purchase system. For instance, purchasing a car with monthly installments by making a down payment. So what do you mean by down payment? Down payment is the initial payment made to the seller at the time of taking the delivery of the goods. It is like a deposit and we can tell. It is like a deposit amount or the no, it's like not a deposit amount. It will not be repaid. It is like a down payment, the initial payment amount given to the seller for taking the goods with the buyer. This is called as a down payment. So total price minus down payment, it will be distributed on the basis of equal installments. Okay. So here the point to be noted is that, I repeat again, It is similar to a hire purchase agreement where both buyer and seller is involved. It is like a credit purchase or a credit sale. But one important difference is that not only the possession but also the ownership. In case of hire purchase system, ownership transfer agala. Here, ownership is also getting transferred. Okay. Now we'll move on to the definition. There is one popular author, J.R. Batley Boy. He has given the definition for installment system. So according to J.R. Batley Boy, installment purchase system, how he has defined is that it is an agreement, under an agreement to purchase and pay by installments. The goods become the property of the purchaser immediately when he receives the delivery of the same. So note the point here. The property will become the purchaser's property immediately when he receives the delivery of the same. So this point only we are going to contradict with hire purchase system. So where immediately the buyer becomes the owner. Okay. So this is like what the Batley Boy, a popular author, has given the definition of installment system. Now we will move on to the features of installment system. So now from whatever we have discussed as the meaning, from the meaning, what and all features we can derive. Point number 1. Installment purchase system is just like an outright credit sale, because it is not going to be a cash sale. Obviously, it is going to be a credit sale. And the point number 2, the buyer makes the payment in different installments as per the agreement between the buyer and the seller over the period of time. It is like repaying a loan, like that. Third point, under installment purchase system, the buyer gets the immediate possession as well as the ownership of goods. As I have already mentioned in the meaning, two important key words what you have to remember is that one is the possession of the goods as well as the ownership of the goods. Ownership is also immediately transferred to the buyer. The owner becomes the buyer immediately after taking the goods in his hands physically. Fourth point, the seller cannot repossess the goods. Like hire purchase system, the seller cannot repossess the goods if the buyer makes any default in between any installments, if he or she is not able to pay. The seller loses the right. He cannot take back the goods. But what he can do, ultimately he can sue against the buyer for the recovery of the amount due. If nothing is going to work out, then through a formal court of law only you can recover the balance amount. Okay, so here the point to be noted is that the seller cannot repossess the goods if the buyer makes default in the payment. Then, in case of default in the payment of any installments, the total amount of installments already paid by the buyer cannot be forfeited. What do you mean by forfeited? Cannot be cancelled. So as in case of hire purchase, he will be treating that as a higher charges. But here, in case of installment system, it cannot be done so. The total amount of installments which he has already paid remains the same, and it cannot be forfeited at all. It cannot be cancelled at the meaning. Okay. So under installment system, the buyer can sell or mortgage the goods even before clearing all the installments. Why? Because immediately on taking the goods, the buyer becomes the owner. He has the right to sell the goods to somebody. He can mortgage the goods, pledge the goods, whatever he wants he can do. It is no way related to the clearing of all the installments. That is a separate track. Financially he has to pay. Once he becomes the owner, he has the right to do anything with that product or whatever he has bought. Okay. Now, risk of goods or assets ought to be borne by the buyer only, because he is the owner of the goods. He cannot claim anything or something goes wrong or something. He has to bear all the repair charges or whatever, because he enjoys the ownership of the goods, not only the possession, physical possession in hands matraila, he is enjoying the ownership also. The last point, the buyer of the goods under installment purchase system has no right to return the goods to the seller. After using some time like hire purchase, he cannot return the goods and take back the money or pre-close the agreement. So he has no right to return the goods to the seller because he has already become the owner of the goods. Okay, these are the various features of the installment system. Now, one important theory question what can be asked in examination is the difference between hire purchase system and installment system. So based on these 8 points, you have a difference in hire purchase system differs from installment system. What are they? First, on the basis of nature of contract. On the basis of nature of contract, it is a hiring goods agreement. Okay, hire purchase system. Under installment system, it is an agreement of sale. The term sale we are not using in hire purchase system. But in case of installment system, it is like a credit sale. Immediately on the very down payment and the buyer takes the ownership of the goods by paying the down payment, he becomes the owner of the goods. So it is an agreement of sale. Second point on ownership. On the basis of ownership, how hire purchase system is going to be different from installment system. In case of ownership, ownership of goods is transferred to the buyer only after the payment of the final installment. Whereas in case of installment system, ownership of the goods passes to the buyer just by signing the agreement and paying the down payment and taking the goods. That is the essence of installment system. That is the buyer becoming the owner immediately after paying the down payment and taking delivery of the goods. That is the speciality of the installment system. Then, based on right, the buyer cannot sell, destroy or transfer the goods in case of hire purchase system, because till he pays the last and final settlement, he cannot become the owner of the goods. But in case of installment system, by the very nature of the terminology, the buyer can sell, destroy, whatever he want to do, mortgage, pledge or transfer the goods as per his wish. Fourth one, risk. On the basis of risk. In case of hire purchase system, all the risks are borne by the vendor before the payment of the final installment. Vendor means your seller. But in case of installment system, all the risks are to be borne by the buyer from the date of agreement. Means from the date of signing of the agreement, because he takes not only the physical possession but also the ownership of the goods, he has to take care of all the risks. Now, based on the right of return, it is RIGHT, right. Okay, right of return. Hire purchase system, the buyer can return the goods before making the final installment. Usually before 14 days, like what a serving notice, he can do it. So here in installment system, at any cost, once the goods sold is sold only, the buyer cannot return the goods to the seller. When it comes to repairs and maintenance, as we have already discussed, the liability lies with the seller provided that the buyer takes the utmost good care. But in case of installment system, the buyer is responsible for repairs and maintenance. Forfeiture of installments paid. Forfeiture means what? Cancellation. Forfeiture of installment paid. On this basis, how both the system differs is that in case of hire purchase system, in case of any default in the payment of any of the installments, already paid installments will be forfeited, will be cancelled and treated as the higher charges. So it is a loss for the buyer. Neither he will be getting the goods, neither whatever amount he has paid also, it will be a loss for him, whom buyer, in case of hire purchase system. In case of installment system, the act of forfeiture, the concept of forfeiture cancelling cannot be activated at all. Governed by, as you know, hire purchase act is governed by, hire purchase system is governed under the Hire Purchase Act 1972. But in case of installment system, we don't have a separate act for it as such. Since it is like a normal credit sale, the Sale of Goods Act 1930 will apply to installment system also. So on the basis of these 8 points, hire purchase system differs from the installment system. Okay. So in this session, coming to the last aspect of session summary, what and all we have discussed is that, just we'll do a recap here only. So first we discussed the meaning of the installment system. Two important key terms I told you have to remember. One is possession and another one is ownership. It is like a credit sale where buy now and pay later. Always keep this concept in your mind. Then this is just an example of the installment system, and we have discussed the meaning of the down payment. Now J.R. Batley Boy's definition of installment system we have discussed. Then features of installment system, 8 points we have discussed. The same thing based on the features. Now we have identified the distinction between hire purchase system and installment system based on the nature of the contract, ownership, right, risk, right of return, repairs and maintenance, forfeiture of installment paid and governed by. So, in this session, now you have understood the meaning of installment system, two important key terms, that is possession and ownership of goods. Then meaning, definition given by Batley Boy, features with one example, car example, and the difference between hire purchase and installment system. Hope this video, thanks for watching the video, and hope you got some clarity on what the meaning of installment system and how it is similar to hire purchase system and how it is different from hire purchase system. Thank you.